So what you're going to want to do, I don't know why I chose to start out here, but what you're going to want to do is go into, not there, go in back into this guy here. And that's where we left off with the reflection questions. And you can pick one of the teams, doesn't matter which one of the teams, and you're going to go ahead and copy one of their Google Sheet datas over so you can kind of mess around with that. So go ahead and click on that. You're going to hit make a copy. And here's that team's data. So the first two numbers are the coordinates of where the ball landed, or the beanbag in their case, and the distance they measured with the tape measure from the origin to that coordinate. All right. Now what we want to do here is take that information and we're going to actually calculate out the distance from the ideal target, which is the center, 0, 0, to where the beanbag actually landed. So we're going to calculate that distance out using distance formula, which hopefully you're all familiar with. Um, Maybe not, but either way, you're going to deal with it. All right, so the formula is distance equals the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1, that quantity squared. So d is going to be the distance from the origin to where the beanbag landed. X1, Y1 is going to be the target center, which is 0, 0. So our X1 value will always be 0, and our Y1 value will always be 0. Now our X2 and our, X2 and our Y2 values will differ depending upon the data that was back in the sheet. So here's our X1, Y1, X2, Y2 values are going to be pulled from here each time. So you're doing a different distance for each one of these. So if we go back, well, what does this look like in a spreadsheet? Well, in a spreadsheet, we're going to drop this guy down here. We're going to cheat for a second. But basically, this is what that formula would look like if I dropped it into a spreadsheet. Okay, I'm going to show you here. Let's copy it. You can do the same with yours. You can just copy it over, and this will take that first spot there. Boom. We're going to paste it in and just kind of show you. Google Docs always causing me problems. There we go. All right. And so what we have here is a nice little formula that calculates the distance between 0, 0 and this coordinate, -1, -8. And it comes out 8.062, blah, 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 which is just a little bit off from what they measured when they measured it with the ruler. And I'm going to let you think about that and answer why that is here in a minute. But I just want you to look up here at this equation. Sorry, it's probably kind of small. But notice the equation. Remember, this was the square root of x2 minus x1. All right, x1 was my origin. X2 was the x value from where the beanbag landed, which was -1. Okay, and then it was squared plus y2 minus y1. Y2 was where it landed, so -8. And y1 was the origin, and then that quantity squared. So hopefully you can see how that's just the distance formula and it entered in here as a formula to calculate it out using these values. And then the square root's just the abbreviation for the square root function here on Google Sheets. And we can get into that more later. So one of the neat things though, if I want to calculate the distance for all these, see this little corner here? I can grab that and drop that down and it'll go ahead and copy that formula down and alter it so it will do it for each one of the lines. And notice these guys are just a little bit off each time, some more than others, but most of them are maybe just a tenth off or so. Okay, and I want you to think about that for a minute. And we're going to deal with that information. Actually, we'll go ahead and deal with it now. So in your engineering notebook, I want you guys to go ahead and take a minute now and answer the question, is there a difference between the measured distances and the calculated distances? And I think we all know the answer there from looking at what we just looked at is, yeah, there's a difference. But more importantly, what I want you guys to try to figure out on your own here for a second and write it down in your engineering notebook is what could account for any differences you observe. All right, so take a minute and think about that. Write it down in your engineering notebook. And I think that's, we're going to call it a day there. I want you guys to go back up here a little bit, and I want you to read about Allison for me. All right, and we'll pick up there tomorrow.